This is a tutorial on making my delicious cold brew coffee. I have a grinder and I've set it to coarse. You can see the little dial is on the second to coarsest setting. I'd filled this up with my coffee and I just started it to grind enough for 18 cups of coffee. It looks like this. So that's about the amount that I end up. And lately I have been very happy with this Mount Comfort Peruvian whole bean, but anything is fine. I probably like the drawings on it more than anything else. There's this little hole in here and I put it in this large container. Suppose I should figure out how much exactly this container holds. But it's a nice little size that fits on Amazon. And I watched a whole lot of videos. There are a lot of fancy contraptions for making cold brew, and I definitely don't think that that's necessary. I'm really happy using just the supplies that I already had at home. Normally I'm slightly less messy because I'm not holding my phone. Okay. Now I'm going to add some water. You can see how much coffee I have in there. I would estimate, I don't know, does that look like about a cup worth of grounds? 3 fingers on there. Got my nice water filter and I'm going to fill it up to the top of the lid. And usually before I get all the way full, I like to give it a good stir. It can be a little challenging to stir when it's 100% full. So really move those grounds around. The thing that makes it cold brew is I'm not applying any heat to my water. This is water that is room temperature, so it's also not cold water. I'm gonna need to add a little bit more water in my filter, but that is not, makes a terrible sound. So I will not do that right now. Okay, imagine I'd filled it up to here. Then I put something to cover it. The lid that came with this doesn't really seal it all the way, so I do tend to use some plastic wrap and a rubber band. Make sure no bugs or anything get in there, especially since it's summer. And I set it on the floor in a cool, dark corner of my kitchen. And the next morning, and if I maybe stir it a little bit like that once in the next 24 hours. When I wake up, it's going to be a nice dark brew like this. I'll put it in this container and in a ball jar. It makes enough, more than fills that container that I paid too much money for comparatively. Then when it's time to make my coffee, today's the last day, so that's why I have to make more. So here in my cup, use that much or maybe a little bit more even. So again, like 3 fingers worth of coffee. It's a concentrate, so that's enough. I'm gonna add a little bit of extra water. And then I like to add my whole milk. So good. Okay, tomorrow, this is gonna be dark, like what that was. And I'm going to use a very simple setup. I've got a large scale coffee filter, so not teeny tiny, it's a big one. And I have a funnel that is designed specifically for a ball jar or a mason jar. So it's a nice wide mouth funnel. Put my filter in my funnel And then maybe I put another funnel under there and I pour it into here. Maybe I put it in I have a identical one of these. Sometimes I'll use that to funnel it into. You can funnel it into whatever you want. It takes a while. Let it take its time, slowly dripping through there. This is from 2 weeks ago when I made coffee last. So here, I personally, because I'm an artist, like to let my coffee grinds dry out. And then I store them once they've dried. It takes a couple days, really, not 2 weeks. Once they've dried, then I put them in this large Ziploc bag, and eventually I'll use this to naturally dye some fabric. You can also just put this directly in the compost. You can even compost your paper filter. So that is my routine. I hope it's helpful for you. I hope you enjoy cold brew coffee as much as I do. So cheers. Here we are the next day, and my cold brew is looking gorgeous. You get to really appreciate the color difference, the magic of film. So the grounds fell to the bottom. Stirring them up one last time, make sure I get all that goodness in there. And I measured the contents of my container yesterday. So it holds exactly 8 cups of water. So this is a half-gallon container. That means I put the grounds in first, so there's less than a half-gallon. There's probably 7 cups of water approximately in there. Now I'm going to take my filter setup. Fits neatly in my container there. And I'm going to take my time pouring. It's normally easier with 2 hands. But I'm going to take my time pouring things in there. I don't need to rush anything. And usually takes 3-4 times of coming over, filling it up. The more grounds that get in there, the longer it takes to filter through. But you can see most of the grounds have settled back down to the bottom already. So it's filtering through. That is my finished cold brew. And it's a great method. It really saves so much money. And it's also good for the environment. It costs a lot to ship all that water if you buy pre-made cold brew. And this doesn't take as much effort for shipping. Very easy to do at home. It's fresh. It's good. One of the things that I love about cold brew is that it doesn't. I used to be only a decaf drinker. I used to not have caffeinated coffee. And this just doesn't give me that kind of buzzy feeling that caffeinated coffee gives me. So I'm using regular caffeinated grounds, but feeling really, really good drinking this. Okay, so maybe I fill it up more than 3 or 4 times, especially if I'm nearby. And then remember to compost your grounds or use them as natural dye, or they're really good for pests. Certain insect situations can be abated with coffee grounds. I think I've used them especially for ants in the past. So make the most of them. All right, enjoy. Bye-bye. All right, one last measurement. When I make my coffee, I use about 4 ounces as a serving size, which makes sense because for me this lasts about 2 weeks. I'd imagine it's about 7 cups of coffee. That means I get a perfect 14 servings out of one batch, and it lasts. The last cup is just as good as the first. So cheers. And one last view. Look how dark, how beautiful, opaque that is. You can't see my hand through. So enjoy. I hope you like my recipe. Thanks.